This is question 19 in the memory topic, and this is a design a study style of question. And the question says, you have been asked to investigate accuracy of memory with reference to context of recall. Describe how you would design an experiment to do this. Now, I've underlined context because context is what the question is specifically asking you about, and you're being asked to describe how you would design an experiment specifically into context. It says, describe how you would design an experiment to do this, and you need to include the following three things. The procedure, what participants could do to test the accuracy of memory and context of recall. Now, because it's asking you what the procedure is, it's asking you how you're actually going to conduct the experiment. So what you're going to have to do is you're going to have to design an experiment where you get one group of people to have the same context and another group of people to have different contexts, so that you can then compare them to see whether or not there's a difference in the accuracy of memory. The second thing it asks is for a suitable hypothesis for your experiment. Now remember, you need to make sure that you are referring to a comparative statement in your hypothesis, and because it doesn't specifically ask you for a null or an alternative hypothesis, you could do either. But you need to remember that you need to make sure that you've got both levels of the independent variable in there, and that you've got the dependent variable in there as well. So what I mean by that, it needs to be clear in your hypothesis about how one group of people are going to have the same context for remembering and recalling information, and then another group of people are going to have different contexts for remembering and recalling the information. And also, in terms of the dependent variable, it needs to be clear what you're actually going to be measuring in your experiment. And the third thing is the results that you would expect to find. So in there, you need to explain what you would expect to find based on your knowledge of context. So changing context leads to a less accurate amount of memories, whereas if you keep the same context, then the accuracy of memory will be more. Now you can, if you want, you can literally just copy one of the psychologist research studies that you've learned in class on context, or you can completely design your own experiment as long as it's on context. So let's have a little look at a sample answer to this then. So in terms of the procedure, I would get 20 participants to remember a list of 30 words in a classroom. I would then get 10 of the participants to recall the words in the classroom, and the other 10 to recall the words in the corridor, to see if the change in context will affect the accuracy of the recall of words. So in there, it's very, very clear exactly what is going to happen and what participants will actually be expected to do, so you can actually test the accuracy of memory. The second is the hypothesis, and I've written here an alternative hypothesis. So the hypothesis will be there will be a difference in the number of words remembered if participants remember and recall words in a classroom compared to remembering words in a classroom and recalling them in a corridor. Now, as you can see, it's clear what the independent variable is, because it's clear that you've got some people in your experiment who are going to remember the words in the classroom and recall them in the classroom, and then other participants are going to remember them in the classroom and recall them in the corridor. It's also clear in there what the dependent variable is as well, so what we're going to actually be measuring, so the number of words remembered. And the last is the results that you would expect to find. So I would expect participants who remember and recall the words in the same context of the classroom to remember more of the 30 words than those who changed context after remembering the words and recalled them in the corridor. So as you can see there, that is in line with research into context, which says that if you keep the same context, then your memory is going to be more accurate. Whereas if you change context, then your memory is going to be less accurate.